What is up, my little Danos? Pepsi, your host of the Helsinki Hydreigons, and I'm here for my draft analysis for the Pokemon Premier League Season 3. And this is gonna be a huge opportunity for me and for my channel regards to the coach lineup that we're gonna be having this season. Big thank you for Jack and Ellie and all the staff in the Pokemon Premier League for inviting me back after playing in last season, which was my first season in Wi-Fi scene in Generation 9. I played for a long time in Generation 8 and 7. But this was the first place where I started in this generation, and I'm really happy and excited for this season, considering the coach lineup that you can see on your screen right now, that who are gonna be playing this season. These are some of the names here are people that I've been watching all over the years and dreaming of getting a chance to play them one of these days. And at some point across the time that I've been doing this, I did honestly lose hope that it will ever happen. But I'm really happy that it did happen, and once again, big thank you for Jack and Ellie and the staff of this league for giving me this chance. How the draft is gonna be working between the 20 coaches that are gonna be here this season, myself included. You can see the rules right about now on your screen, as well as gonna be briefly mentioning that we are gonna be drafting between 10 to 12 Pokemon with a budget at 120 points. And when it comes to Terra Captaincy, we have 27 points for between 2 Pokemon at minimum that you have to be naming as a Terra Captain for this season as well. And for my behalf, being the last pick going to this draft in itself, I had to wait a very long time to see what falls for me and what I can start building around with. And throughout this video, we're gonna be talking about these Pokemon in pairs, because I'm drafting them back to back essentially. So I'm gonna be talking in that sense very briefly my 10 Pokemon that I drafted in total, and how I vision them to working together for my behalf. So let's just jump into it and see what I was able to select in my first wheel. So as my first wheel pick, I did the thing that is gonna be probably making me a little bit of public enemy number 1, which is drafting a regenerator core. This was, by the way, nowhere in my plans originally. I'm gonna just clean my name a little bit there. I cannot clean it completely because I did this anyway. But just to give you a little bit reference point, my original plan was actually drafting regular Okerbon and making as my Terra Captain and Perry with a Zapdos. That was my wheel pick of dream that I was thinking that if I can get these two, it's gonna be really fun, and I get by far the best Terra Captain and the most valuable and underpriced Pokemon in itself in that Okerbon. But that unfortunately got taken before my wheel pick, so after that I was like, you know what, I cannot bank anymore what's gonna be there for me. I'll just wait and see what's there. And somehow, someway, when I'm the last pick, and there's 21 S-tier Pokemon available this season to be drafted, and I'm the last pick again, there was Tornadus just sitting there to be waiting to be taken. I was like, you know what, I'm taking you. I don't care if I used you before, and it's not necessarily a new tool for me to use. It's by far the best thing available, and it's gonna give me a huge freedom in a sense to be drafting this thing right now, because it's obviously very fast, very strong, versatile, thanks to Regenerator, has some longevity to it, and a Pokemon that got access to Nasty Blood in this generation, which makes it feel a little bit different for me than using it in Generation 8 when it did not get access to that, but back then it did have Defog, so that's a little bit hurting some that I don't get the hazard removal outside of it, but I'll still take it anyways. Because in 20 people draft, you have to start thinking about role compression. You have to think about things that are harder to come by, because it's gonna be way more limited with so many people going after similar things. And fast Pokemon with versatility and good amount of power are hard to come by in this kind of economy. So I'm gonna be taking the Tornadus area when it's there for me. And for my A tier, I pair it with Galarian Slowking that I also have used before, but not in this generation, where it got access to things like Toxic Spikes, and Chili Reception, which is a huge thing, and something that was part of my plan going into this as well, because after I did this wheel, my idea was that I want to draft a mini rain core that can function in and outside of rain, and also have a Trick Room Abuser that Galarian Slowking can help in function, because it gets access to Trick Room, and it gets Chili Reception as a momentum move to get himself out of there and get the Trick Room Abuser in. That was my original idea after taking these two, and now I had to kind of wait and see, can I make that a reality. The hope was that Archaludon would be part of my next wheel pick, and now we have to wait and see if that happened, or did I have to alter my plan to make something completely different from the rain in itself. And as my second wheel, I unfortunately did get sniped from Archaludon, and funny enough from Overquill. That was also part of my mini rain plan that I had with this draft in itself, how it started. But those were both taken before my will pick, so I had to alter my plan a little bit in a sense that I'm gonna be forgetting about the rain aspect. I'll think about the trick room aspect that I definitely wanna add to this team, but that's not gonna be something that I add that I'll be adding down the road in itself when it's the perfect time to do it. But for now, I want to roll compress offensively and defensively on things that I deem necessary and valuable for this draft. Starting with my Mienshao being one of my B tier picks. This is going to be a physical wall breaker, a fighting type that takes advantage of bulky steel types that my first two picks don't necessarily like to deal with, and are going to be luring in by itself, and they can utilize momentum like chili reception and U-turn to get my Mienshao in freely in that sense. And Mienshao in itself can also function as a reliable scarf with good speed here that can also deem valuable to have in a draft like this with 20 people in itself. Then follow it up, I did take Swampert that funny enough I never used before in draft, considering all the ground water types that are available throughout the times that we have been playing. I've used Seismitoad before, I've used Quagsire before, and I've used Gastrodon before, but never Swampert. So in that sense, it's gonna be new experience for me to utilize it. And I thought being just a solid ground type, solid water type with access to stealth rocks and a momentum option with flip turn. So I'm certified draft league player thus far, having access to momentum with all of my 4 picks thus far in itself. But I like the pairing with Swampert, luring in bulky grass types with my first 2 picks as it is. So basically, this is all about synergy and roll compressing what I've done thus far. And now I'm gonna be trying to intensify as well as we go along with that. What I do with my Terra Captains, when do I select them? And I also wanted to think about aspect of like, when do I get my hazard remover? Because I kind of want to have at least one that I can look at and say that I can use you when I need to. But ideally I don't have to rely on it too often, because hazard removing can be also a form of momentum loss in Generation 9. So don't overvalue it, but at least get some of it for yourself. That's kind of the idea of it. So let's go and see what my third will end up being. And as the third will pick, I decide to do something that is gonna make me even further down the line the public enemy number 1. And I'm only digging this hole for myself here by making these decisions consciously after getting sniped from the pseudo rain or mini rain, however I like to call it in itself, with the Archaludon and the Overquill. I decide that, you know what, the best way I can take this draft to be as strong as it can be and difficult to deal with for my opponents is just adding a very strong Terra Captain defensively wise that pairs with my other regenerator Pokemon like Hydrapple with Terra Fairy and Steel, and then down the line add some good amount of wall breaker prowess that takes advantage of the situation that I get to be when I'm utilizing my momentum move. So that's kind of the idea that one of my draft is going to be looking like, and where I wanted to take it as. But as of right now, it looks very slow obviously, and I have to start second guessing right now that am I taking Glacier anymore as my second Terra Captain that I could still afford to do with the 12 Terra Captaincy points that I have left, or do I change it to be something faster and offensive? And I'm leaning towards that route, and you're gonna be seeing later what I do with it. Besides all that, the second Pokemon on this will pick was Fortress, because I wanted to secure myself a hazard remover that I deem at least useful enough to be seeing as that I can use this Pokemon in matchups where I need to. It provides me rapid spin, and therefore it can also hazard stack for me with having access to rocks, spikes, and toxic spikes. And in itself, by also making my Hydrapple Terra Steel, it also takes away pressure of Fortress being a dedicated Steel type, cause that's one of its premier weaknesses and why it's also here like 6 points out of 25 points in total. So very low tier pricing wise is that the Fortress being a natural Steel typing can be tough for it to handle by in itself. So I have to support it properly and leave it in a position that you're only here for hazard control and hazard setters, and I'm perfectly happy for you to do just that for me, and I take care of the weaknesses elsewhere that I would have been able to handle if I elected a different Steel type with my Hydrapple. So that's gonna be my third wheel, and from here I'm gonna be looking after taking my Fairy type next, and my second Terra captain that is gonna be more offensive and something that adds speed to this roster. And as my fourth wheel, I decided to go after Diancie to giving myself a natural fairy type to roll compress in a sense that it will take pressure away from High Trapple to be always a Terra Fairy, but also by having a Terra Fairy High Trapple, it alleviates Diancie to be a defensive fairy every single week for me, so I can utilize it in multiple ways, either being a Trick Room Sweeper, Rock Poly Sweeper, and it can also alleviate the pressure of Forward Threats to be brought every single game for spikes, because Diancie got access to those now as well. So I like the versatility and the roll compression and the resistance to flying and fire that Diancie provides to this team. Even though it's a slow Pokemon, I can still make it work, but it does mean now that I'm definitely not gonna be doing the Clay Steer plan that I had originally, starting from my first wheel of thinking of doing this pair with Galarian Slowking. I decided to go away from that and selected myself Terra Staraptor with Terra Flying and Terra Normal. This birdie is gonna go crazy, and I'm gonna be so excited whenever I get to bring this Pokemon, especially when I get to select Choice Banded Brave Birds and Double S's. Those Pokemon that are saying quote-unquote resistance are going to get 2-hit KO'd, if not all-code in some instance. It is crazy the numbers that this Pokemon can do. In Pokemon Calculator, at very least, what I've been looking at when I've been preparing for this draft and looking at this situation and say that is this my best of choice of doing, and I figure that I'm gonna do this. I'll see down the line if I want to change one of the typings to fighting, because that was also a very good typing to have on Staraptor. But for now, I just had to have, I want to have those nuke options on its stabs and go from there. So that's gonna be my second last wheel. My last will include one of my last high tier Pokemon that I can pick from B tier, because I can have 2 of them in my roster if I choose to, and I'm choosing to go that route. And then I'm gonna add a 1 very low tier Pokemon that is gonna be very good niche Trick Room Abuser, in theory at least. We'll see if I can use it in practice, but I'm hopeful about it. And it's gonna replace Glacier in that sense that I didn't end up taking. And my last 2 Pokemon that I end up drafting are going to be Carbonable, going in a chronicle order, how I end up drafting them in order in this wheel. And then Hydreigon as my last pick from the B tier, securing the last 2 B tier Pokemon that I can have in besides Mienshao, based on the rule set in this draft. Talking about the Carbonable first briefly, how I feel about the fit. I think it's going to be a very strong potential wall breaker in Trick Room that I can utilize pair with Galarian Slowking when the matchup calls upon it, and I see it working really well when I'm prepping for them. And I like the fact that it's a part Ice type that is not weak to Stealth Rocks, because it has the fighting typing, leaving that a weakness. And then under Snow that is set by Galarian Slowking with this Chilly Reception move, it gains +1 defense on physical side, and I can utilize either like Life Fall for breaking or something like, let's say, a Southwest to gain a SPDF boost and make it really hard for me to be taken down in one hit while able to hit back with my natural attack stat and Iron Fist ability. Then we also have the Hydreigon, the mascot of the channel, and the mascot of the logo for my team in itself, and my favorite Pokemon, obviously. In that sense, we even really have to mention it separately. I like how it fits on the team, and I was shocked that it was still available this late, because we are talking about start of round 10 with 20 people in the draft. It's a very good dark type still to be drafted, and I was just expecting it to be gone at this point, because people should be valuing their dark types to draft at least a decent one, so they just don't get run by psychic types without any drawbacks to their stab. And I like the fact that it's a special wall breaker that can function also as a Scarfer alongside with Mienshao and Staraptor, so it gives me a speed control and versatility with their item of choices that I do with them each week, if I choose end up running a Choice Scarfer in itself on that week. We have to wait and see how it's gonna be unfolding. The week 1 battle will be going up against Crimson Seabat, that I really look forward to play, because I did not get the chance to play him last season, and I've only played him once before, I believe, in my career, but it's been a long time ago, and it's been something that I've been really looking forward to get to do again versus him, because I really like his content. I like him as a person. I really respect what he does over there. So hopefully you stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you're new on the channel. I know there's going to be a lot of new viewers on these videos that I'm accustomed to. And for those that are kind of hesitant to want to watch more games from my side or games in general from this draft, I can assure you I don't intend to style out my opponents each week. My way of playing with this team, what I'm expecting to is gonna be similar to what I did in Generation 8, that I'm a balanced player at heart who can flip the switch to become a bulky offensive and even offensive player depending on the matchup, how I feel about it. I know Generation 9 doesn't favor this kind of style, but I do think the rule set, what this Pokemon Premier League has this season, limiting the high tier Pokemon, how many you can have them, does benefit balanced style to be more usable playstyle than ever before in this gen. But I might be gaslighting, I might be wrong, we'll have to see. Until week 1, subscribe if you're new, make sure to check out all the courses down below in the description, and until then, I'm gonna be see you guys later.